What you doing there, bud? What you worried about? Can't believe we're getting another snowfall. I'm gonna have to shovel soon. Well, geez, bud, we're in the middle of winter. Well, I know, but I'm just sick of it. It's coming down out here. Snowing cats and dogs. Well, we're halfway through, bud. What you in a hurry for? Well, trout season, of course. Every time I come outside, I see my canoe and my boat. And I think of those days out paddling, fishing in the boat, catching trout from a canoe. I wonder if they're thinking of me as much as I'm thinking of them. Well, geez, bud, trout are only good in May. Well, yeah, good in May, but over the years we've learned some tips to catch them all season. Spring, summer, and fall. Oh yeah, what kind of tips you got? You willing to share? Why don't we go inside and I'll tell you a few tips. Alright, welcome back to another Average Joe's Fishing Show video. I'm about tired of winter, and I'm sure you guys are too. So hopefully this video kind of gets you more prepared for the trout season ahead and gets rid of some of those wintertime blues that I'm sure we're all feeling. Today we're going to break it down by season, spring, summer, and fall. I'll show you how I read the lake, choose my lures, and adjust my presentation based off season. When it comes to spring, everything there is to know about trout is going to be solely dependent on warmth. We're talking water temperature and air temperature. Trout are looking for areas where bait is concentrating. That is going to be in the shallow, warm areas. We're talking rocky points, sandy flats, fallen trees, all that sort of thing. That's going to warm up first. That's going to draw the heat in. It's going to concentrate the bait, and that's going to have the trout come in behind them.
Hear that? Oh, there. There it was. Hooked up here on the Nipigon. He's fighting good. That's okay, I got it. Nice, bud. Yes.
Beautiful. The whole hook pops off too, man. Here, I'll get it for you.
Perfect.
That's what you want. You don't want to hurt the fish. Oh, that's a stud. About 16.
That's a stud, and he bit the Nipigon, gold and silver, hammered. Show that bad boy off. One thing that I mentioned before, and we learned this from our buddy Darren, is that a nice deep net is crucial for keeping fish and letting them kind of revive. And this time of the year, it's easy because the water's cold, it's uniformly cold, so you don't have to worry about the fish expiring in the net. But I can just get my leg over the net right here and hold it over the gunnels. Beautiful male brookie, about a 16-incher, gonna live to see another day. There he goes, right back down to the bottom.
Anything as subtle, even a small little trickle of water coming into a lake, is going to hold trout in the springtime. Now, with all that being said, regardless of where you're fishing, whether that's moving water or a lake, we've noticed over the years that the second to third warm day is going to be absolutely dynamite. If you get a cold, rainy day on, say, a Saturday, Monday to Tuesday is going to be dynamite when the trout finally turn on and that water has warmed up a few degrees. Now, lures is simple. We're talking small spoons, small jerk baits, and when the presentation needs to be subtle, a small bobber, slip bobber, or stationary bobber with 3 to 5 feet of line down to a dew worm can get you a lot of fish. It's something we've done a lot and caught a lot of fish on doing it. Even some of the biggest trout I've caught have come on a bobber and a worm. Large inflows or streams are obvious hot spots. Faster water, concentrates, warm, well-oxygenated water, food, and in the right system, when the white sucker run is on, can be absolutely unreal. Now, I've seen it in a couple different springs now. When the sucker run is on, those trout are in, feeding on those sucker eggs, and as long as you don't spook them too badly, the bite can be phenomenal.
There's a few trout there, 3. There's 3 of them, bud.
Let it go down. Sit there. It's gonna eat it. Oh, he turned. He turned. You got it. Ate it out of the mud.
net. So yeah, we're banking on fish tonight for dinner. We've got 2 now, so we'll try to keep the rest of them hooked well. They were not biting lures though.
No, they wouldn't bite the lures. So yeah, this is a bigger one. Let's see if we can let him go.
Don't hold it in the gill.
I just have to hold him for a second to get the hook out. He'll be okay. He's hooked good. Just like that.
Just drop him.
And then beauty. Let him go. Once you've located these areas and if you've picked up a fish or two, that's the time to slow down, fan cast, troll that area over and over, and replicate what you've done to catch that fish. If these tips still haven't caught you some fish, it's time to slow things down. We need to look at the lake and read what the lake is telling us. Watch the surface. Are trout busting minnows? Is there a hatch? Lots of times these trout could be surfacing in the middle of the lake in May, and we've seen it time and time again. Watch the lake. If they're surfacing in the lake, something is happening. We've went out into this lake a few springs ago, and there was a mayfly hatch, and these flies were hatching on the water surface out in the middle of the lake, and these trout were jumping everywhere. Now, we didn't have the right presentation. That's when a fly rod would have been handy, but if you make enough casts with small little spoons, spinners, maybe even a bobber and a worm, even in the middle of the lake, those trout are coming up, they're keying in on that hatch, and if they see your lure, you could get lucky enough to catch 1, 5, 10, or even 50 trout, having the best day on the water. Now, hopefully this past footage demonstrates everything I've said and shows you exactly how to put it into practice. You're gonna have to break lakes down differently than moving water. Now, that being said, all of the same areas and tactics apply. Moving water, those trout are gonna be sitting at the bottom of a hole, and chances are, even if it's a cold, rainy day, you're gonna get fish to bite. In a lake, they're gonna be much more finicky. Even 1 or 2 degrees in the water temperature is gonna make the difference between a skunk and a sleigh day. When it comes to each day in the park or anywhere that you're focusing on trout, you need to take down each day as its own. Just because you've caught fish here before doesn't mean they're gonna bite that way today. But slowing things down if needed or speeding things up. Hopefully these tips help you guys land more trout this spring. Now, let's roll into summer. Summer trout are a classic challenge. If I can say one thing about summer trout, it's the thermocline. Now, what is a thermocline? A thermocline is a sudden change in temperature. In mid to late June, the thermocline is going to set in this area, generally around 18 feet. What does that mean? Well, the water above that thermocline is going to be much warmer than the water below. Those trout are going to be sitting just below that thermocline where the oxygen is still good for them. All of the bait fish are warm water species and they're going to be above that. How do you catch trout if they're down deep and the bait is up shallow or more shallow? We like to focus on structure, deep water structure, whether that's a nice drop off from 20 to 30 feet, a rock edge, a finger, a shoal that might be 40 feet around it, comes up to about 20 feet that you can go over the top. Those trout are going to come into that warm water to feed from time to time. Now, we're going to be focusing on trolling primarily in the summer. We're talking 20, 30, 40 feet, and get your lures down anywhere from 15 to 18 feet. Trout feed up, so you don't want to be fishing below them. We did that for a few years. We would troll with our lead core with 4, 5, 6 colors, get down 25, 30 feet, and yeah, we would catch fish, but it wasn't that great. Once we started fishing a little bit shallower in the same depth, now we're talking 2 colors of lead, 2.5 colors of lead, even deep diving crankbaits, that depth that we're targeting is anywhere from 15 to 20 feet. We're not going any deeper than 20 feet with our lures. I gotta keep attention on them. Not a huge one. Oh yeah, there he is. Oh, and he popped off in the net.
Quick show and let them go.
Quick show and let them go. Quick show and let them go. Good. Good release on him. Nice. Nice.
Nice.
Nice.
Over that shallow part.
Over that shallow part. So here's a little something that we just ran into. We were trolling 3 to 4 colors, and I knew we were coming into a shallower part, so I just only put 2 colors out after we just did the little lure change about 15 or 20 minutes ago, and I just left the 2 colors out, and I didn't let any more out. I thought, I'll just see what 2 does, and sure enough, 2 colors. With this, structure is everything. You need to find deep water structure and find the bait, whether that's perch, which will generally be in about 18 to 20 feet, right tight to shore. Those trout might be suspended in that same depth out in 40, and they just move laterally in to feed. So trolling that depth is great. Start your troll in 20 feet, then move out to 30, then move out to 40, with your baits still around that 18-foot range. There we go, got another one. About the same size, maybe a little better. He's here. Oh, big one. Really nice one. Spitting up minnows. There. He's not a giant, but he's definitely better than the other one. I got my pliers handy right here. This is gonna be fast. There we go. Probably a fat 17. Ooh. There he is.
Gone.
Gone. Awesome. Like I mentioned before, a big lure that we use is the Berkeley flicker shads and flicker minnows. They go about 14 to 16 feet. They work really well. Another thing that we'll do is lead core with a lake clear wobbler trailed by a fly or a worm, or lead core with a spoon. Now, if the trout are really finicky, the lake clear wobbler trailed by a worm or a very small spoon is going to be dynamite. And those trout are going to gobble that up. I'm telling you, we've done it time and time again. Downsize, put a small little fly behind a lake clear wobbler or a small little 1-inch spoon. Go slower then, about 1.5 miles an hour. Slow things down, and those trout will pick up your lures. Now, when we're trolling this deep water structure, how do you know what you're doing? Well, a big ticket item that we've had this last season is our deeper fish finders.
You want to cut as much weight as you can out of your gear, because it's freaking hard. Like, that was a kilometer of just straight uphill. So this right here is what we're working with this year. This is the Deeper Pro Plus 2, and this is going to be a game changer for us this season. Lyle and I are cutting an exponential amount of weight, like a ton of weight, over our trips, and they work awesome. They literally just hook up to your phone. That's your screen. So there's fish jumping everywhere behind me right now, so I got to get my rod set up and get fishing and get this in the water and try it out.
They're about this big and weigh 1/4 pound. For the size of them and the weight of them, they are unreal. They link to your phone, they're Bluetooth, and it's a portable fish finder. A nice thing with the deeper, it also tells you how fast we're going. We like to troll about 2 miles an hour or 3.5 kilometers an hour. When you're trolling this deep water structure, you have to think your lure is 50 to 100 feet behind the canoe. You can't just turn on a dime and think you're gonna catch trout. You could snag up on what you're trying to troll around. So when you troll by a point, you wanna go 50, 60 feet by that area and then swing back. That's gonna bring your lure, it's gonna cut then over the tip of that point. And that is a good technique to catching summer trout. With all that being said, that basically wraps up spring trout. The biggest thing I can tell you is the thermocline. Focus on that area, fish deep structure, find the bait, find the trout. If they're not biting, slow things down and downsize. Let's get into fall trout. When it comes to fall trout can be unpredictable yet rewarding. Fish are scattered. Some are shallow, some are deep, some are mid-column, and some are staging for the spawn. If I can give you any pointers for fall trout, it's to learn one lake at a time. Being skunked in your favorite lake in the fall can happen. It can happen easily. Be patient. First tip for fall trout is the lake breakdown. The first thing I'm going to do in the fall is use those summer techniques and troll a lake for an hour. Start in 20 feet, 30 feet, 40 feet, changing my lure sizes and my speed, and see if that works. If there's two people, even better. Have one guy cast the bank when the canoe is in about 20 to 30 feet, the second guy trolling. Now the guy casting, jerk baits or crankbaits or spoons that'll go down about 4 to 8 feet are going to be the ticket, and the guy trolling, he's going to be targeting those summer related trout. That's the fastest way to break down the lake. Once you catch one, you've determined the depth of active fish. The next tip is 1 to 2 degrees of the water temperature can be huge. One day you could be catching these trout in summer patterns related to deep water over the basin of the lake, and the next day they're gone. Why? Well, did the lake drop a few degrees? Maybe they're pushed in shallow. They're in a staging area ready for the spawn that's going to be happening in a couple of weeks. That's when fan casting the shore with jerk baits work well. You need to be open-minded when it comes to fall. Typically in the morning these fish are going to be shallower, and middle of the day they're going to be deeper. So if you're out there first light, you're going to find these fish probably in about 10 to 12 feet, and as the sun comes up these fish are going to move deeper into 20 to 25. Now with fall, you need to watch the trout's reaction. If you're getting chases to the canoe by the guy that's been fan casting shore, those trout are in shallow and there's something that they like about that presentation. You just need to do a minor adjustment. Okay, so you got trout coming to the canoe. What do you do next? There's two things that we've done. One, speed up your presentation. Create a reactive bite. These trout may be staging to spawn and they're not really in a fully committed biting mode, but they're interested enough to chase your bait to the canoe. Speed that up. Get them aggressive. 2, slow things down and go back to a bobber and a worm. If you've casted the same tree or a bunch of trees a few times and you're getting follows that the trout are coming out of those trees, cast in a hook and a worm, a bobber with a worm below it, and just let that sit there and slow down your presentation. If you do all of these things and you still don't get trout, don't get discouraged. Sometimes when they're late fall like that, they just shut down and they won't bite. The key with this is just because one lake is fishing a certain way doesn't mean the next lake is fishing that way. If you have 2 days on this lake with no bites, don't get discouraged. Jump to the next lake, start everything over again, break the lake down, cast shallow, troll deep, get a bite, and break it down and fish how the fish want to bite. So that's your seasonal guide to brook trout fishing, at least in this area around Algonquin Park. Spring, we're going to be shallow. Those warm bays, those warm rocky points, those warm trees, it's going to hold bait and it's going to hold fish at some point in the day. Moving water is key. If there's any moving water in a lake or a stream, fish the inflows. When it comes to summer, the thermocline is your #1 best friend. Fish the thermocline, fish the deep structure, find some bait, and you'll find some fish. And when it comes to fall, best of luck. We still haven't broke it down where it's a science. The fish can be anywhere, but when they bite, it can be awesome and those trout are all colored up. Apply these tips to catch more trout this season. Leave a comment below if any of these help you guys throughout the year. Brook trout can be tricky, but with the right approach, you can outsmart them. And sometimes they outsmart us. That's just the nature of the beast. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned to the next one. I'm Lyle, and this is the Average Joe's Fishing Show. Stay tuned to the next one.